Hey, there we go. Yami, welcome to the podcast. So tell everybody who you are. Give us a quick intro to you.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm Yami, or in English, Jamie, depends on how you want to pronounce it. 24 years old. I'm currently studying at Aalto University um, in Finland, Helsinki. We're basically currently trying to break into the VC space. Have done a bunch of internships and broken into London once. So I worked at Atomico the year after you did, and
Yeah.
then we got to know through that. It was a great time seeing how a top VC works and how VCs operate, how
Hmm.
European tech has potential to even outpace US tech in the, let's say, next 10 years. But yeah, general background is I've lived in Finland for most of my life. And and other than that, I've studied in English, so we have a really comprehensive education system. I think English is probably my first language. Learned Finnish after that, and I've been fortunate enough to have have been super active in the student community here in Finland. In my free time, I founded the local university triathlon club.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's what I spend most of my free time on, like just swimming, cycling, and running with my friends at
Okay,
uni.
so you're like a big triathlon fan then, I guess.
Yes, yes, I love it.
Wow. This is why the podcast is so good because like that's what I was mentioning just before we hit record. Like I don't think that ever would have came up. I don't know, maybe it would have came up at some point, but like you learn so much stuff. So how long have you been like this triathlon thing? Like how
So
long? Like
it came out. It was really super spontaneous. I was at a party. It was close to Christmas time with my friends, and we were quite under the influence. And then my friend was like watching some sort of Iron Man ad on his phone or something, and it's like, "Hey, we need to sign up for something like this," and then we did.
yeah. Okay. And how
The
long
rest
ago
is
was
history.
that? Like how?
That was 2023,
Okay, okay.
end of 2023. So then last year I did my the 2024 summer I did my first half Ironman, and then last summer I did my first full distance Ironman. Um, and ever since it's just been more and more addicting, getting myself into top endurance shape.
Yeah, wow. Well, you've picked the right sport because I remember someone was once told me that like the average income for triathlon athletes is like super high. It's like a super rich people thing to do. So, it's good networking opportunity. But
And it's super
um
expensive. I think that has some
so,
correlation too.
yeah, so before this, like it seems like a super difficult thing to throw yourself into. So like, you guys are at this party and you're like, "Oh, let's go do some triathlons, boys." And so before this, like were you like a big running fan? Like did you do a lot of running or a lot of like how sporty were you basically?
So if I recall correctly, I had ran my first marathon that the previous summer, and that was also
Okay.
just entirely due to coincidence because my friend had ran the marathon, and then I was like, oh, my friend wasn't particularly like fit. He wasn't like in poor shape either, but he was just an average Joe, and he just ran a
Yeah.
marathon. I was like, what? If he can run a marathon, then so can I. And then I did. It was a horrible experience. It was the
Really?
worst days of my life. I hated it, but I did make it to the finish line. And then after that, I was like, okay, maybe I'll not do anything endurance related in a long time. But then my friend was like, yeah,
Ever
we need to
again.
do this, and then we did.
Wow. Okay. I mean, like, God, this I keep digging up more things. So you've also ran a marathon, which I also didn't know.
Yeah.
Um, so let's start with that. Like, what was that like? And like how much training did you do? Because I'd also like to run a marathon myself. And
Yeah.
actually, I've signed up for one twice and then been like, oh no, 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 no. Like my heart's gonna explode. I can't do this. Da, 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 da. So I've done a half marathon like three or
Yeah.
four times now. Um, and I'm trying to, yeah, I want to. It's such a bucket list thing to be able to like, okay, I've done that, right? So I'd love to do one. So what was it like? How did you train? How much did you train for it? And what was the experience like, and all that kind of stuff?
Okay, so like I have to say that as much as it is painful, it is so much more mental than physical. At
Yeah.
least in my case, it was I barely trained for it. I probably started running 1.5 months before the marathon. And I did not take it seriously enough. And that's also the reason it was so painful. But during the race, it was 100% just making sure I do not stop running. And there's no like nothing's gonna like stop you other than your mind. Your body can go on further, way further than your mind can. So like you need to realize that you're the only thing stopping you is your mind in that situation. So I just kept on going. I did not let myself like, of course, it was super demotivating. I had people like, I mean, 60, 70-year-old men and women
Passing you,
overtaking
yeah,
me.
yeah,
And they
100%.
were, and they were looking like they were just on their Sunday jog. And then I was there like suffering. I was supposed to be in peak. I was like, early 20s should be my peak physical fitness. And it
Yeah,
was immense suffering. But I think the biggest learning from that first marathon was it's just all mental.
yeah, so incredible, and like, it's so it's so crazy just how important that mental thing is that your
Yeah.
body could just keep going and that you did it with like a month's training. That really shows that.
Yeah.
Were you not worried like, oh, what if I have like a heart attack or something?
I was actually so like motivated to just make sure I make it to finish line because I knew my friend did it with like almost zero
Okay,
training. So I was like, I have to
yeah,
do it. And ever since, like, of course, we started taking it more seriously. And then once you do take it seriously, you start to actually train for it. It's a much more rewarding experience seeing that you can,
yeah,
reach a specific time or, reach your keep a specific pace for the whole time. So you don't have to like, bonk or, slow down at the end, stuff like
mm,
that. It gets more, you know, interesting when you actually start training for
yeah. I can imagine, and it probably because the pain must have really been painful, no?
it. It was, but
And
mental
and
pain. Like my okay, but physical pain, yes, but mentally, like I was just like I can stop whenever I want, and then after
yeah,
you stop, you can't go on. Like that's the thing.
yeah,
If you're gonna do an endurance race, you're just not gonna be able to stop because after you stop, it's
you're
so
fucked.
much more difficult to continue.
Mm. And like, and how was, when did it start to get really bad? Like, so you start off the finish line, and was it like the first 4 miles were, oh, this is all right, and then it was like, oh fuck, like I've got 20 more miles to go, and I'm in pain. Like, how
I
did it?
think I think they're like, I don't think it's like a really common thing, but in this marathon like sphere, I think it's like kilometer 30 is when it starts to hit. And that's when like you have all your like all your like body, depending on your pace you ran, your body is usually like trained to like physically withstand 30 kilometers of running without like this severe pain. And then while after that, it's the last 12 kilometers are absolutely hideous.
Really?
And I think my friend had that, I've had that, and then I've heard a lot of other people. Exactly, kilometer 30 is when it hits.
And what
And
kind of,
if it's later, you're very lucky.
yeah,
But it
and
will hit.
what kind of pain we talking about?
It was mostly simply just agonizing every step you took. So
Mm,
I kept on feeling this like knee kind of like gruntling in place, and then your feet start aching, and then of course when if you're like running in the wrong posture or something, then even my shoulders started hurting. So it's like
yeah.
it's like a whole body sensation, and you can't really get rid of it
Mm.
unless you stop.
God. Yeah, I mean, even with the half marathon, I remember like towards the end, it definitely didn't feel great. So I can't imagine what it's like for a full blown one. And but it must have felt amazing to get to that finish line and be like, oh
Oh
fuck,
yeah. They
I've
had
just
all
ran
sorts of
that.
snacks and drinks, and people were partying. You got a medal and everything. It was incredible.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you realize the power of the human mind. That it's just like a mental game. Those last 12 kilometers, especially, it's just not. You're not allowing yourself to stop, so you will make it to the finish line.
Mm.
There's
Yeah,
no like
do you feel
option.
yeah, do you feel like that's like a lesson that's because that must have been really like eye-opening to be like, oh, hang on a minute. Like I actually if I can actually just turn my mind off, I can
Mm,
do other things.
mm. I think that's very applicable to all areas of life. It's that many people just don't understand the capability of their mind to like if they really are disciplined enough to work hard and harder than the rest, then they will achieve their goals. Obviously, not all the time, but they will have a very much higher likelihood of beating their own expectations of where they can take
Mm.
themselves.
Yeah, or and even to just be like handle situations that they think they couldn't otherwise handle. Like
Mm,
whether it's loads of stress or grief or I'm always amazed by how much like some of the people I've spoke to on here or off of here, how some people can put up with a lot of shit in their life and
Hmm.
still be super happy and like positive and dealing with it. It's an amazing thing to like be able to control your mind, and it must have been something that really like you really had to battle with in those
Yep.
final 12 kilometers.
Mm. I think that was like one of the points where I did realize the power of the mind. It was definitely like running your first marathon for anyone is just one of those moments because I don't know anyone who has trained enough for their first marathon to say that it was easy.
Okay, so
It
you
just doesn't.
recommend it then?
I do recommend it. Everyone, not everyone, but like those who think they can do it and want to try it, they definitely should do it in their lives at least once.
Yeah, yeah, it's a real bucket list thing. That's why I'd love to do it. But I will this year. I will do it, I think, because I've got the marathon I want to do is in November, and so I've got fucking ages. And
Yeah,
then I'll
you've
just
got
do
it.
I'll just do a bunch of half marathons up until then, and then yeah, it sounds like because when I first did a half marathon, that's kind of the approach I had. It was like, oh, it's gonna be fine. Like, I didn't train at all for it because I was just like, oh, worst case scenario, I'll just walk along, so I'll be fine. And it
Yeah.
was fine. Like it really wasn't that difficult. And so obviously, the more you train, the more you reduce the pain. But like, yeah, I think I shouldn't worry about it so much. You should just do it. So you did this marathon, and then afterwards, like, it was like a year afterwards, you guys were like, oh, let's do another super heavy endurance thing.
Yeah.
You didn't have enough of it. You wanted to get back in there and
Yep.
take another swing. And so you did like what was it, a half of an Ironman?
Half Ironman that year. Yeah.
Okay,
2024.
and tell us, so what is the Ironman thing?
So half Ironman is half of the full Ironman, and the
Yeah.
full Ironman is a race, the longest distance, nor longest regular distance triathlon you can compete in, and it's the full distance is 3.8 kilometers of swimming. You often in open water, so you go to the sea or to a lake, and then you go right out of the water. You take off your wetsuit or your swimming gear. You jump on a bike. You bike 180 kilometers. And then after that, you're still supposed to run a full marathon.
Yeah,
and
wow.
and
That's
then
so crazy.
that is that is the pinnacle of endurance sports, at least competitively. There's lots of like ultra Ironmans, but those are not really that popular because it gets quite
Crazy.
crazy.
Imagine, yeah. I mean, it's already crazy. How can you get
Yeah.
ultra? Yeah, I'm just reading it now. It says average finish times for amateurs ranging from 13 to 14 hours.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my God. So tell us, what the hell happened then for the half? Like, how long did it take you? How was it?
So my first half, it was in 2024, and there was as I said, a completely like spontaneous sign up, and then we went with my friends, and then we had a great time, but none of us had trained for it. So
Oh
my time
my
was a bit
God.
over 6 hours, which is I think a really good time. Of course, it could be way better, but for my first half, it was really good. I didn't train enough. I could have gone a much better time, but it was super fun, and
Mm.
like having to run a half marathon after that 90-kilometer cycle was definitely incredibly painful. But
God, yeah.
in 2025, so last year when we did the mostly with the same people, actually, we ran the full distance. I had actually trained for it. I took it seriously. I practiced, for example, running right off the bike. So you stop your cycling session, you go for a short run afterwards at a fairly quick pace. I think it was I did much better, and I ran like a 3:45 marathon in the full distance. So that was I had like all the energy in the world, and I uh felt this like incredible like euphoric like moment when I was running at such a fast pace, overtaking so many people. But that was just, as I said, just training. Like the only difference there, of course, you still have to have that mental grit, but then you also have to train. So there's the difference between the marathon and the Ironman is that you can't really do the Ironman with just mental power. Like you
Yeah, yeah. You're
actually
not
have to
David
train.
Goggins. You have to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
figure it
like
out.
you actually have to learn to swim fast, and then you have to like learn to cycle 180 kilometers and having to run after that and learning to run after that is that was a yeah a different challenge altogether.
Mm. Okay, so on to with the first one, the half one. Like, how did you maybe you felt did you feel like more confident with it because you'd already done a marathon and you were already like you maybe already knew that you could take a lot of shit, or how did you like on the start line? Were you like nervous or like oh you
Oh,
thought
I
I
was
was
really nervous. I was
okay?
really nervous because it was my first one and it was a very, very like long a marathon you can run in 4 hours if you're fast, 3 hours if you're super fast, 2 hours if you're world class. That would take 6 hours, and it's just so much more like pain in the especially the run because you're going running with legs that are completely exhausted from the bike, and the running there is just it's not really running anymore. It's just like just stepping stepping
Mm,
forward for as long as possible until you
mm,
reach the finish line. I didn't like that either. That was like a another like dreadful experience. Um, I don't think that I trained enough for that either. So there's the thing. Like I did have the mental power, but the training there was none. Like I had barely started training until like maybe let's say 3 months before that.
mm. And like you must have been going through a real mental battle, like going around it again. Like, did you know, at what point did things start getting really tough? Was it after the swim or was it after the cycle? And like,
It's
how did you?
right when the run starts. That's when
Okay,
you realize you still got a half marathon to run, and
okay,
your legs are completely dead. You just want to go sit down and
yeah.
have a cold Coke Zero.
Yeah. And I guess like because you're doing different things, you probably have moments like in the interval of getting off the bike, you have to probably like when you're running, you get a rhythm and you just keep going,
Oh
right? And
yeah,
no interruptions. But when you get off the bike, you almost have a moment where you almost stop,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And that's actually super interesting because when you get off the bike, your legs go into a completely different movement. Your legs are used to like spinning, right? For what did it take me like 90 kilometers around 3 hours, yeah, something like that. And then I went off the bike. Your legs are they have to first like accustomed to like running, and everyone gets cramps there. So I got small cramps, and I was like, I started like I started wobbling, and then I went to get my shoes, and I had to like stop and stretch for like a good 3 minutes, just is there on the asphalt, trying to put on my shoes and stretching because I couldn't move my legs. They were cramping so badly. But then I started running. The cramps didn't go away, but I just same thing, mental power. I just kept going. They were much easier dealing with the cramps because I knew that I would get them. So there's another thing, like I mentally prepared to get cramps. I think everyone does because you know that after such a long distance, you have to just prepare for the worst. And almost all amateurs, they get cramps, right? It's
Mm,
just such a long distance. And then if you don't take your magnesium or your legs aren't accustomed enough to that transition to running, you will and inevitably get some form of cramps.
mm. Man, so like how did you win that mental battle? Like what did you like what kind of thoughts were you having? And what did you tell yourself to like because you must have been like, "Oh, I just want to stop right now. Like why am I doing this?" Like what was going on in your head and how did you push through it?
Well, it might be like a multitude of different factors. But I think one of the things that you can't really stop. I think my brain just tells me I can't stop.
You can't quit. There's no
Yeah,
quitting.
it's just like not an option, right? And if you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
take it as an option, then you're like it's not in that like you have different doors in life you can open. Like you're not going to be
Mm,
able to open the door like to quit. So I
mm,
guess that's like number one biggest factor in that you'll just keep on going. The other one is there are people cheering for you regardless of whether you know them or if they're complete strangers, they're screaming your name. Of course, you're going to keep running.
So it
And
really helps.
yeah, and thirdly, if your friends are competing, you don't want to stop and be the only one who doesn't make it
Mm.
to the finish line.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you really that's like, oh, if I fuck this, then like everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, Yami didn't fucking finish. Remember
Yeah,
that time? Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
okay, okay.
I mean, of course, they're
Uh,
not going to say that, but you're going to feel that.
you're gonna feel it, yeah, exactly. And you're always gonna be like, oh, what do they think about it? Um, Yeah. And so how long did it take you in total?
That was 6 hours, yeah, just over 6 hours. And that was I think I was very happy I made it to the finish line because as I said, 3 months of practice for that, and I was not prepared.
Mm-mm. So each part, like you said, it took you like 3 hours on the bike. So it was how long did it take you to do the swimming and the running?
Well, the swim was 45 minutes, I guess, something
Oh,
like that. Yeah.
okay, okay, that's not too bad.
It's actually like swimming is first because of course it's the most dangerous.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
can
that's
actually
true.
drown.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, if they make you do that last, you just fucking die. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's obviously by far the most dangerous, and there's lots of deaths every year, of course. I mean, not many, but there are because it's like you have all that adrenaline in your head, and you like start swimming, and you have a bunch of people, and some people kick you in the head or something. Of course, there's lots of risk going on because you're all swimming in the same group
Mm, mm,
formation,
mm.
trying to swim pretty fast, and it's open water, and anything can happen. Of course, safety is like super well. They have really nice like people with these
Yeah.
paddle boats next to you, so you can always stop and hold onto a paddle boat. You won't get disqualified for that. Good, gonna take it easy, um, and then keep going. Like one of my friends had to stop half midway through the swim just to take a breather. But overall, like swim, just keep going because in swimming you can really get into that flow once you know the basic technique. It's
Mm.
not you will make it. In the cycling, it's just like a mental battle, and the running is the place where people like usually don't make it because
Yeah, I can
it's
imagine.
just so it's a completely different game there.
Yeah, I mean, you're like already like 4 hours into something, and then
Yeah,
you've got to run a half marathon. I can imagine that's
yeah,
pretty brutal. And which part did you like? I guess you liked the running the least, but
yeah.
like,
I hated it.
was the swimming like? I guess maybe that bit was the best because it came
Yeah,
first.
it's really fun to get like that you get that really big group of people running into the water, and then you're like paddling forward, and then you got it's also fun to swim in open water. It's like
Yeah,
just being in nature. You don't have to swim in a pool back and forth, and then you stare at some sort of like line down below. But
yeah.
instead, you actually got like it was a lake, so it was really fresh water, and it was super super clean. You could almost drink it if you got thirsty.
Okay, nice. So top up on the way. And so where was this? This was in Finland, right?
Yeah, this was in Finland. This was in Lahti, which is the Chicago of Finland. It's a
Okay,
beautiful lake
okay.
town.
Yeah, I think I heard when I was at Slush, I think I heard some people mention that town.
Yeah,
Um, you see, how do I spell it? I want to see on like Google Maps.
Lahti.
Lahti. I want to see, oh, okay. And so like it was this big lake,
Yeah,
like right
exactly.
on the seafront, like
Yeah,
on the front of the town.
yeah.
Nice. And then, so did you cycle like how did it work? You swam a little bit, and then do you cycle on the road, or is there like a
Yeah, we
special?
cycled on the like in the countryside, like mm, countryside roads. It was quite beautiful, actually. It's
And it's so is it like through a forest? It's not like a
yeah,
road for cars. It's like a
yeah.
hiking path.
No, no, no. It's on the car road, like on the
Okay.
side of the road. We go 90 kilometers. They of course block traffic, so it's a really expensive event to organize.
Okay.
And that's another reason they don't have that many events. It's super niche sport in a sense because of course you have three sports combined into one. So you have to be
Yeah.
like at least mediocre in all three.
Yeah.
And then, you have to have the road closures, and it's really expensive to close them and to have so many volunteers to help you. It's a great community around it. But that's why they don't actually have that many races. So they closed that race. They don't have it anymore. Now the closest race,
Really?
yeah, the closest race is in Tallinn, Estonia.
Wow. Okay.
That's where I went last year for my full distance,
Okay.
which, as I said earlier, it was a great experience. That's where I actually had trained for it. I also built my mental like game up. I was very much energetic throughout the race, and it was a completely different experience when you actually know what you're doing and you keep your. When you get into really get into endurance sports, it's a lot of understanding data, like what running speed you should be at, what running speed is way too fast, what's a bit too fast, and what's your like threshold. So that's
Mm.
something that I took seriously in the full distance. And
Okay.
that's something that you once you get into endurance sports, you start to learn like what's your running pace you can keep up for 10 kilometers? What's your running pace you can keep up for a half
Yeah,
marathon, a full
yeah.
marathon?
And so, let me see in Tallinn, and let me see. So that was in. Did you do the swimming in the sea?
Yeah, that was super fun.
Oh,
There's a
was
small
it?
fish going alongside the route.
Oh my God, was it not like? It must have been so freezing though, no? But did they give
No,
you a
it's in
wet?
the summer. It's in the summer. It's fine. It's not that cold.
Really?
Of course, you had to have a wetsuit. Without a wetsuit, it would have been absolutely freezing. But another thing you have to take into account, especially as someone from the north, whenever you're outside, it's not about, it's of course how much you wear, but it's also like, what are you doing? If you're standing outside in the cold, it's completely different to running or
Yeah,
cycling or
true.
something. It's a completely different thing. Like if I go running now, it's gonna be cold if I like wear little, but it's going to be even colder if I stand alone or
Mm,
stand in place in the same clothing. Completely
yeah,
different thing.
yeah, no, it makes sense. Um, okay, so you did it in Tallinn, and so let's talk about that, and then afterwards we'll go back to talking about you more generally. So it's not just Yami, the Iron Man contestant. Like, so the full one. So that was better. It was you. Like, how much better was it?
It was like I can't put into words how much better it was. I had prepared for it. It was the
It
best
was
race of my
really like
life.
night and
Yeah,
day. Okay,
yeah,
and so it wasn't like you did because I would have thought that it would have been not that much better because yes, whilst you trained, you're also doing double the distance. So
hmm
like it would balance out. But you found that it was like, the running bit was okay and it like because you ran a whole marathon afterwards,
yep,
right?
yep.
Oh my
And it was fun. As I
God.
said, it was the running bit. I had the energy. I had fueled myself. I had kept the same pace. I took this really rigorous approach to it, where I understood my limits. I understood to not run too fast, but not like slow down at all. So keep the same pace throughout the whole marathon, and that's what I achieved. And it was completely a different race. It was like I had beaten my mental capacity, and my body was listening to me. And that's
Mm,
when it was super fun as well. It's always fun at the finish line. That's not different. But then it's
mm.
when it's fun during the race, that's when you really, really start to like
So
it.
you didn't have any like it was still super painful, right?
Yeah.
But you'd overcame like you were just dealing with the pain and it didn't matter.
Yeah. And I knew what
Wow.
my threshold was. So I knew to stay on the same level of pain in a sense, because that's all about endurance sports, right? You have
Mm,
to endure the pain. You're not gonna like get rid of it. It's still gonna
mm.
be there. But once you know how to endure it, that's when you become better at it.
Wow. And so, yeah, I mean, it sounds completely different. When you talk about it, you sound like you had a great time compared to the previous two, the
Yep.
marathon and the half Ironman. And so, what did you do? Like, when you say you kept a pace, like, how does that work? And like, what kind of pace did you have to keep? And also, what do you eat along the way? Like, did you have these little? Because it's like when you do the full one, that must be like 8 hours or something. So,
Yeah. It was for me it was 11 and a half.
fucking hell. Yeah. So, how do you? Gosh, and when you were starting, like that's quite daunting. It's like when you go on an 11.5 hour flight and you're like, oh God, I'm gonna have to sit in this chair for 11.5 hours. Like I can't imagine how you must have felt like at the start line. Like for this next 11.5 hours are gonna be painful. But yeah, you just I guess.
You do get used to the pain and that level of pain. And once you are in that level of pain, like you're able to endure it for almost in eternity. Of course, you're gonna hit a wall at some point, but if you keep
Hmm.
fueling yourself, like as I said, I was eating gels, and you have to keep eating them consistently, because if you quit taking energy and you're consuming the same amount, if
Yeah.
not more, as the race progresses, you're obviously going to fuel out, and that's when you run out of glycogen, and that's when you get completely out of it. You're not going to be able to continue at the same pace. You start to slow down, and your race somewhat like dies out.
Okay. And so how does that work? Like, so this glycogen is stopping your muscles from like cramping.
Yeah, well, I don't actually understand the entire process
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
works, but it's the main purpose is to just continue fueling, take enough
Hmm.
carbs throughout the race, and then can stay is maintain that consistent level of energy. So
Hmm.
don't let it go up too high, because that's when you go that's when your body doesn't can't handle it anymore, and then you get other symptoms. But then also like don't take too little because then you obviously screw up your feeling.
And what happens if it goes too high? Like,
And then you start puking.
really?
Yeah, that's very common as well. Because if you're
Wow.
not used to taking that much, because you're not used to racing, you don't do an Ironman a day. So
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
not used to that level of pain and that level of endurance sport, and then you're also not used to taking in that much carbs, then you're obviously going to start to like your body's going to react to it.
Mm. And so it's these like little gels primarily, and that's like
Yeah,
how you take them. And you're just running along, you crack one of those bad boys open,
yeah,
and and they I guess they give them out like a lot at checkpoints along the
yeah,
way.
yeah,
Yeah,
all the
you don't
time.
have to carry them with you. I imagine there is a form of the Iron Man, knowing the how these people are, that you have to actually carry it all with you, and you have to like you can only have what you start off with, and it's some kind of double endurance where there's
Yeah,
no help along the way. Man, it's amazing. It's amazing that you did all that, and it's also amazing that I don't know. I was gonna say it's amazing that I never knew about it, but then like, why would I? It's not like you can say, "Oh, hi, how you doing? Yeah, great. By the way, did you know I've done these three things?" Like, but it's just funny. It's funny how I don't know. That feels like such a significant and cool achievement, and like, we've
it's
hung out
pretty
a bunch
cool.
of times now, and
It's also cool to have a hobby that pushes you forward. Like you can always improve your time. You never really stop improving once you get into the hang of training
mm,
consistently. It's also a good way to stay in shape. Like you're forced to do like enough training to at least keep that maintained base level. So of course you're gonna stay in shape. And I think staying in shape is one of the best ways to stay sane in this world.
100%. Yeah, that's also what I was gonna say. Is like it probably does wonders for your mental health because
Oh yeah,
going through all of that, it must make normal life feel okay. And like, I imagine when you face challenges, you can probably think, oh, well, it's not going to be 11 hours of constant suffering. And so it can't be that bad.
exactly.
Cool. And so outside of that, of course, you're from Finland, and that's something I'm super curious about because I've been there twice now, and it's just such an interesting place to me. Like everything that they do with slush and the like youth sort of involvement in like the way it's cultivated, that like the youth involvement in tech and like founding companies and stuff like that is so interesting. So, what was it like growing up in Finland? Like where are you? Are you from Helsinki originally, or were you from like a smaller town? Or
Yeah, I'm originally from Espoo, which is like right next to Helsinki. So it's like
hmm
part of the Helsinki metropolitan area. So I've lived there for most of my life.
hmm
Um, Finland is the most rural country in Western Europe. So we are, I think, I don't know the actual figures, any like the up-to-date figures, but we have the most rural population in Western Europe. So there's lots of smaller towns, and people grow up in towns, and then that's like a big part of like Finnish culture is that we have like a large population living in the countryside, and they're able to have the same opportunities that are given to those in the city. So that's actually not the biggest like determinant of where people end up. You have lots of people, super successful people in all careers coming from the middle of nowhere in Finland, which is super cool. And you don't see that in all big countries. Like for example, the US, where people move to like big cities to like start there, like go to the best unis or go to the best uh, companies to work and start their careers
hmm
off.
That's really nice because I mean it's the same in the UK, and it's kind of like it's kind of a shame because you you always have to balance like the benefits of the two things. You have to kind of balance them. Like if you want to have the amazing benefits of like living in the countryside, like it's quieter and you're closer to nature and it's probably easier to be like have some good mental health and stuff like that. And you know your neighbors and stuff. That's all great, but then in the UK, like if you live somewhere super rurally, you're especially primarily as a young person, you're not fucked, but like you're way out of the loop. Like the people who went to the London unis, they're so connected to opportunities because that's where
Mhm.
everything's happening.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
um, and so it's a real shame because like I think there's great things to coming in the, like to
Yeah.
living in the countryside, and it's cool that you guys can balance that out.
Yeah. And I have to maybe like elaborate a bit on that. So like I'm talking like early education is super good. But like then of
Okay.
course like, when you get to like uni level, then it's well, of course people want to go to the bigger cities
Mm-hmm.
to get the best education. But like in general, like where you grow up is does not determine where you're gonna end up. But
Okay.
where you go later on does determine. So like
Okay.
there's no such thing as like a or like there are no such things like four places to grow up in Finland. It's a super like egalitarian society.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good because I think social mobility is like one of the most important like
Yeah,
metrics for
yeah,
a country
it
because
is.
often when you look at the people historically who have like advanced a country or came up with great ideas that have improved the living standards of people, very often they're sort of social climbers in the sense that they're not like aristocrats. Like, no
Hmm.
offense to any aristocrats listening to this, but like people who are sort of that landed wealth, like there's not many of them that tend to do much, like crazy stuff, you know,
Yeah,
that really pushes people leaps and bounds forward. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but yeah, so it's really cool that that is that sense of social mobility, I guess. If that's, do you feel
yeah,
that that's the case in Finland?
yeah, that's definitely the case. I know people from all walks of life studying in the best university in Finland. It's that's what I mean when I mean
Hmm.
social mobility.
Hmm.
It's that
Okay.
people are always given the option to succeed. It's a great system. I think the number one determinant of that is that we have or we used to have the best education system in the world. I don't know if that's the case anymore because they do these standardized PISA tests where they look at like was it like eighth graders like understanding of like basic math, literature, and um, other topics, and then the Finns scored the highest throughout the early 2000s, and
Wow.
that's been something that I can be super grateful for.
Hmm.
And of course, it's free. So all that's the biggest difference between the studying in Finland compared to studying in almost all other like Nordic, not Nordic, sorry, European countries. That it's actually completely free, and you get paid to do your uni. We get a monthly like study benefit of like a couple €100. On top of that, you get a study loan, which can be up to 7,000, 8,000 per year, and that's all for you to spend. It's government backed, so if you can't pay it back, of course they're going to try to do everything they can to get it back, but the government backs it, so the banks don't essentially take any risk by so everyone gets a loan. It's actually a great system.
Yeah, sometimes I hate talking to people from other countries because it just makes me feel like, oh, what the fuck? Like, I went to the doctors the other day and like, yeah, it was just a shit show and like it this yeah, this whenever I talk to, you know, my girlfriend from Sweden and it's similar there, like they get like uni for free and even get like the money to spend and
Yeah.
oh God, it just it's no wonder. Like, I mean, I'm coming at it from a narrow angle looking at the sort of the outcomes for the tech ecosystem, but it's no bloody wonder there is so many great companies coming out of like places like
Yeah.
Finland increasingly and like Stockholm is like that next like maybe
Oh,
a step ahead
definitely.
in terms of maturity, but
Definitely.
it's no wonder because like contrast that with what happens in the UK where you know like uni just to go to uni costs £9,000 per year
Mhm.
and then you get all this student debt with it. I mean, it's not as bad as the US. That is really fucked.
Yeah,
But
that's a
then you
whole
get
different conversation.
all this student debt with it that you have massive interest on. And then you have also so you have £9,000 just for the course, but then you have all the living costs, right? And
Mm.
so you when you say it's free, you mean the course is free. The uni course is free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I guess the loan is for the living costs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you have to get like two loans. You have to get in the UK, you have to get one for the fucking tuition fee, and then the next for like the crazy high rent fee that you have to pay. Um, man, it's just yeah, it's not good. And then our education system is probably a bit whack. But why do you think the education system in Finland was so good? Like in those in the rankings in the early 2000s, and I'm sure it still ranks up there. So what do you think? Why do you think that is?
It still is good, but it hasn't it's dropped from the highs. but I think it was immensely due to the fact that people were people valued education in society, in that the government focused all their efforts on building that system from the ground up. So you have to options to like place your child into like daycare and elementary school already at a super young age, and they get really personalized education from a young age. So people were able to like learn at their own pace, and people are taken into I think it's a bit cliche to say, but people are taken into account as like humans rather and individuals rather than just like, entities or numbers in the education system.
Mm,
And then you're like always like teachers are super well educated and highly valued in society. It all comes from that culture of valuing education and then building that from the ground up on a very high level, on a like very like in a practical level. It means that people are like um actually value the education. So of course like it's just another cliche to say that people hate homework or like people don't want to like say like want to go to school. But in Finland, like the whole culture of like going to school and getting an education is so important. It's also one of the reasons we still have like this culture like you have to get a master's degree to go to to go get a good job.
yeah.
It's not necessarily the best culture, but it's something that when the whole like country values education, then you obviously generate a bunch of like super smart and
Mm,
well being people. Like the average human average being in Finland is super smart, and they're like it's like it all starts from them having obtained that quality education from very young age. So it's just like starting from the ground level. It's super
mm.
well respected.
Okay. And to put that like into perspective, so like what was your when you went through school, like how were the class sizes, for example? So like how many students did you have,
So
say?
I think a typical Finnish class size would be like 25 students, something like that.
Okay, okay, so it's not too different. For us, it would be like 30-ish, maybe a bit
Yeah,
more than 30. So it's not too different.
yeah.
So, but you feel like when you said that like it's more personalized,
Mm.
is it like do people do a year again if they feel like they're not ready to move up or
That's definitely common. And then you do have
okay.
lessons where people are say you all take the same exam, but like the teachers actually take into account your level. And if you're going faster than the rest, you'll be given more difficult stuff to work on, and vice
Mm,
versa.
okay.
And like the society is built on that everyone is given the opportunity to reach their maximum potential, and that also comes from the fact that like everyone is given free education all the way up to the end of uni. That's just like from the ground up how it's all built, and
Mm,
then that way even people who come from backgrounds like where no one in their extended family have ever graduated from anything beyond mandatory um, comprehensive school. You have people graduating from the top unis here, and then they go on to work in the best companies
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
found the crazy startups. It's something the social mobility paired with the level of education is like a crazy good mix for
Yeah.
building like a really encouraging atmosphere for people to break that social barrier
Hmm.
to go really pursue their dreams.
It's honestly, it's such a it's a subject I'm really fascinated with because like I think it's something in the UK that's really gone wrong is like the social mobility and um the like yeah primarily the social mobility and then all of the other things that make like a quality of life in terms of healthcare system is messed up,
Mhm.
like the uni system's messed up. Like a lot of people who even go to uni now, like they really don't get anything afterwards. And so I'm just so fascinated by it because when I look at countries like Sweden and Finland, it seems like they've really figured it out. And like I'm always like, oh, why is that? Like, um is it because they're smaller? And then I was just Googling like, oh, what is their Finland's like defense spending as a percentage of GDP? Like, is it because
Mm.
they spend like less on defense? Like, what funds it? And because The taxes in Finland, are they like quite high compared to,
Yeah, I think they're highest in Europe. I think
okay.
highest or second highest in Europe. It's that's also the like counter the other side of the coin, right? So you have to maintain that society with high taxes. But then we've always had high taxes. That's how society's been built. So I guess it's just more acceptable. You have lots of wealthy people who move out, obviously due to high taxation. But then you have
Mm.
lots of people who believe that taxes are they're just like what you give back to all the good that you get from the government. Because, like, of course, as you said, people will always be complaining. There's always going to be things that you have to fix, especially with the healthcare system, education. Those are basic human things that everyone wants to function properly. So obviously, everyone's always going to have some sort of problems with it. There's never going to be a perfect world with regards to these things, but when you get the basics right, people are happy and they will want to stay in the country. And I
Mm.
think Finland's the happiest country in the world for past couple of years running, and that's one of the things that makes that the case is all your basics are everyone's taken care of. All the basics are taken care of, and that's when you get uh, equality, the true equality, and the um, equality of opportunity. So everyone can reach their potential as much as they want themselves. There's nothing stopping them other than them. This is obviously not always true, but the more it's true, the better. And
Mm.
that's the sign of a better society. I think that's basically like the Nordic model that they talk about.
Hmm.
That's like it's vastly different to, for example, the UK, or even we can't even go into the US. That's a whole different system.
Yeah, yeah.
It's but that's how it's built, and
Mm.
that's how I think having grown up in that is it's something I take for granted. But then when I go to other countries, and especially other in Southern Europe and uh, for example, the UK, it's just like these things that need to be built up from the ground level to get the same
Mm.
level of social mobility and opportunity for everyone.
And do you think it's kind of a, because I'm always in the back of my head, I'm wondering, oh, I wonder if that kind of outcome is achievable only on like on like when you have a country with less than 10 million people, for example.
Hmm.
Do you think it's like a small country thing, or whether it's something that, yeah,
Very,
how do you think about that, like that
very
idea,
good
I guess?
question. I think it is partially that is the case because it's just easier to handle with a smaller society. One of the like downsides that comes to a society like this, where you're given large social network and social benefits, is that you have a lot of bureaucracy, and obviously, the more people you have, the more difficult it's going to be building that system, and the less bureaucracy, the better. But you're always going to have some level of bureaucracy. But when you have too much, you have too big a country, you're going to have to build more layers of that bureaucracy. It's going to get more difficult to maintain. So I think yes, it's definitely a part of the role that you have to have a smaller country for it to work properly.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like when you look at how like the outcomes for those countries, like everyone's ranks quite highly in the happiness charts,
Mhm.
and economically you're doing great, and um those two blends, like,
Well, there I actually want to disagree because economically Finland hasn't been doing great for the past 20 years. But like
oh
the
really?
in the history of Finland, yes, it's been a very successful country economically. So we've had we used to be one of the poorest countries in Europe back in the time of Finland's independence, so the start of the 1900s. But over the years grew mainly due to large industrial companies growing out from the country, especially in like the pulp and paper and forestry industry. It's super boring
Mm,
industries, right? But
mm,
that's what grew Finland to like the level it is right now. And
mm,
then obviously that was where the wealth was created. And now because of that wealth, we've been able to generate that social welfare for everyone. But that's
mm.
not like that industry is not something that's booming right now. It's like once technology became the number one industry globally in terms of wealth and value creation, it's clear that like countries like the US are obviously generating more of that wealth, and it's easier to just create wealth in, in industries that you actually like grow faster than
Mhm.
the forestry industry is growing right now.
Yeah, no, it makes sense because yeah, on the tech front, like the every year there are cooler and cooler companies that come out of Finland. So it's like the way that you guys as a country have managed to unlock that like
Hmm.
um what would you call it? Like flywheel, I guess is
And
what
that's
people
come
say.
very recently.
Yeah, but I feel like it was such a long time in the making, you know?
It was definitely, but it's just like I think that the fruits of it on the grassroots level are only starting to materialize
Yeah,
right now.
100%.
We have I think Supercell and Walt are the best examples of like Finnish like success stories in the to like 20 in this century. It's like definitely like not something that you want to take for granted because it's only two companies, right? And you need
Mm,
more of those like generational companies to be able to build that social welfare for the future
yeah,
generation,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because we're not going to be able to maintain this level of. I can speak forever about how well we're doing. Like we have the best social wealth, one of the best social welfare systems in the world, but that's not something you can take for granted if you don't have these companies that generate that wealth
Hmm.
for taxpayers to actually then enjoy.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, it makes sense. But and I feel like I guess similar to what's happened in Sweden is they had a few like early great startups like Spotify, and then those people came back, and
Mm,
having them coming back and giving back to the sort of their local ecosystem helped them
yeah,
more and more and more. And now there's like so
that's
many
amazing.
companies coming out of
I love it. That's exactly what you
Sweden.
need.
So I think that it seems like that's starting to happen. Like you guys are
Yeah.
just you had the first breakout companies a few years later, and so like it's taking but and also you know, slush seems like the ultimate factory. That's such a unique blessing for the country. Like it just seems genius to me because from what it looks like, I don't know whether it's true or not, but from what it looks like, it's kind of like a little like startup factory that you've got now in the university ecosystem
Mhm.
in Finland, and it seems like loads of young people get really engaged with it.
Yeah. I think
Like,
that slush is the number one catalyst for that in the whole of Northern Europe. It's just a whole different. I'm actually super privileged to be able to say this, but having worked in the team, like you can only see that is the type of ambition, that's the type of like level we need to be able to maintain in order to keep that momentum, keep those generational companies coming
mm-mm.
out from the Nordics, because you have the world's best investors, and these are not just Europe's best investors; these are the best investors
Yeah,
from the US
everywhere. Yeah,
that
yeah,
come all the way to Helsinki
yeah.
just to see what's up in Europe. And that's the one event that they go to. Like there are so many tech events coming, and you can go to an event every week if you want in the startup and VC space. But if you, I think Slush is in a category of its own in trying to in getting and managing to attract the best of the best
Mm.
in the US and Europe.
Honestly, it's genius. It's genius what the guys have been able to do. And so, from like your perspective, like when you're a student over there, is slush like something that people want to get? Is that oh like it's something that people want to get involved in, or is it like how is it seen by the students there in Finland? And I guess to add to that, like how is being a founder seen as a student over there in Finland? Like, is it something that everyone wants to do one day, or is it like a lot of people don't know about that life? Like, yeah, how is
Yeah,
it?
it's getting better. So I think most of the time the data is moving in the needle's moving in the correct direction now. More people are constantly learning about the opportunity to actually become an entrepreneur and start your own company at a young age. And then you have these people um, who want to join Slush as they see that that's the number one place to actually get that visibility and learn about what it is to become an entrepreneur. But in general, like I think it's just getting started. Like obviously it's just a super small event and like it's just 10K people. It's not like Web Summit or something like
Mm,
Tech Barbecue with way more attendance. But it's just like the level of people there is incredible, and that's what separates it from these larger
mm,
events. And that's what gets people excited when they see the best founders and the best investors in the world
mm,
come to Helsinki out of all places.
mm,
So I think that's what's somewhat at least ignited this new relationship with students actually trying to like solve what would be something that you want to do in your career. Is it something meaningful? And if it is, then could it involve someone someday starting your own company? Because I think that is definitely the number one like best career opportunity for someone who knows what they want to do
mm,
and actually have a huge impact. in
Hmm.
doing it. Because once you're a founder, you can do whatever you want. You're the one who creates the
Yeah.
builds the product you're building. You're the one who's creating the impact. There's no one stopping you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense. And so are there many people on campus who like give it a go, being a founder? Is it like a
There's lots of more incubators, and that's another thing because once people go to Slush, they see, oh, this is super cool. I want to build something like this. They build a company, but they need that ecosystem help. So there's a bunch of university like led incubator programs, and they're not even
Mhm.
taking equity. These are like places where you just apply. If you get
Mm.
in, you get a free home, or like they house you, and you get to move out to this hacker house or something, and then you
Wow.
start building with people of your mindset, and you build together, and you start thinking about how you can solve these difficult problems. And that's what I think you need more of in Europe, because that's something that actually gets the momentum rolling when you have the smartest people and the most ambitious people. Um they're not necessarily like realizing their potential if they're alone. But once you put them in the same room, that's when crazy stuff can happen.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess it's such a daunting thing to like I have a friend who he's recently like he just graduated and whilst he was at uni he started a company and that's what he's doing now. And like to do it alone is so much harder than to be in like a hacker house or like a founders a
Yeah.
place where founders can go because when you're there at like 3 a.m. trying to solve something, if there's someone else there, I imagine it makes it feel 100% better. Like rather than
Yeah.
you feel like you're an idiot and like, oh, what am I doing with my life? I'm up at this time, and there's no certainty it's going to go well. Da, 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 da. Like, yeah, I think it's super essential for founders to all be like together,
Yep.
especially like once you got the traction and it's clear, like, and you had the confidence, it's different. But when you're just starting out, like, it must be so scary. So.
Mhm.
Um, Okay, so that's a ma many of the universities in Finland have that. Have like a fairly big incubator.
Yeah, I think all of them have one. But then, of course, like as I said earlier, like the best students are always at the Helsinki region is the biggest city, but everyone's given the opportunity to move here, and you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
apply from
yeah.
anywhere. And then the people that build from here, some people come from the US just to come work here because it's just when you get that level of not motivation, but like ambition in the same room, that's when crazy things happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think some of the incubators here have succeeded really well in that, and they attract foreign talent, even from the US, to
Hmm.
start building cool stuff because that's what we need. We need less of that like incubator that just goes for a set program and lets people it just teaches people the basics. We need more of that, like just getting the right people in the room and letting them do what they want. They
Yeah,
will
yeah.
figure it out when they are that ambitious,
Hmm.
and they need help, but they need more of that self actualization, that they're given the autonomy to do whatever they want. They're given the
Hmm.
resources to do it, and then they actually build rather than just like, okay, now we're going to have this workshop, now we're going to build this.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes sense. And were you never tempted yourself to start something like a
Yeah,
like a
I did give it a shot. I had applied for an incubator with a business idea I had with my friend. I did not make it. I think I didn't refine the idea too far.
Mhm.
But that was a really good learning experience for me to understand, like, if I'm going to build something, and it's one of the biggest learnings I've actually made, is if I'm ever going to build something, and I definitely will, it's going to be something that has enough impact to like affect as many people as possible in a positive way.
Mhm.
Like I want to build something generational. I want to help people with some problem that annoys them as much
Mhm.
as it can annoy them, and help them fix it. I think that so once you become a founder, you want to give it your all, and you want to be the best company in that field. Obviously, I'm gonna have to be the best person in the world to solve that problem before I'm gonna do it.
Mhm. And so, wow, so definitely at some point you'd like to be a founder then.
Definitely,
Okay, and
definitely.
why like do you feel like it's the yeah why do you feel like you want to do it?
Um, because it's the best way to create impact. As I said earlier, like you can create impact any way you want. but I think, and then like on that scale, like starting a company is a no-brainer,
Mm.
especially if you truly believe you are the best to solve that problem in the world, and
Yeah.
it annoys you more than anything. That's when you know that you should be solving that problem.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
when and I haven't found it, and I don't think anyone should, and I've learned this from many other people, you should never start a company for the sake of starting a company. Because
yeah.
that's the biggest mistake people do. Once they get into that hype, they think, "Oh, I'm going to start a company." It's not that's not like a given. You should always think about why you really want to do that, and if you're the best person. If you're not, then you find yourself with the best people to solve that problem, and then you solve it. And that's when you create generational companies.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's so true. Like I remember I did when I took a gap year between going to uni, I worked at a startup and the guy got me to read a bunch of Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator's essays.
Yeah.
And like one of his top pieces of advice was like, do not just start a company for the sake of it because like basically you're almost guaranteed to be solving a problem that just doesn't exist.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so it's but that ambition of becoming a founder is really admirable because I think like yes, it's tough, but it seems like a real. Not only do you learn such a huge amount from starting something yourself, um, but I don't know if there's that much more that's so rewarding when it's your own vision and your own like
Hmm.
idea and change you see for the world. Like when you talk to the folks who are doing it, they're gripped by it, you know, even if it is really like challenging, they they get so much joy out of it and so much meaning. And so it seems like I feel like when I talk to people, especially like young people, I'm always encouraging like go and try and start something at least once, and
Yeah.
especially when you're
Yeah.
young, you don't have the risk because it's yeah, even if it doesn't go well, it seems like it'll teach you so much
Yeah.
about like how to execute in your day job.
Yeah. Just remember that once you try it, like you put all of your effort into it.
Hmm.
You can't just do it like 50% of the time.
Yeah,
You make it a side hustle at start, but once you take it seriously, you take it seriously.
yeah,
And
it's
then you
all.
actually think that how am I going to help as many people as possible by solving this problem?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because that's how you actually create impact.
Hmm. And so you know you've been in you're at Aalto University, right? So
Yeah.
you've been there and it like all this innovation going on, and you worked at Slush, right? So how is it first of all working at Slush, um, and then like how do you feel like it's shaped what you want to go on and do in life?
I think one of the best things about working at Slush was that it's operated like the world's best startup. So everything they do every day when we went out with any problem or any project we start, we want to tackle it like the world's best startup would tackle it. We would go into uh this would on a very practical level, this meant solving problems as fast as they appear with the best possible solution by giving people as much autonomy as possible and keeping all possible, and this is super important, keeping all communication within the company, regardless of the size, as transparent as possible. So Slush, for example, hated DMs. You could never, or you had no reason to send a DM if it was something that even remotely could in any way, what shape or form, have some impact on another person. Then you always share on a public channel. That's how you build in generational startup. You really want to make sure everyone stays on the same page. Everyone knows how we solve the problem, what was the thought process, and then we go for it. We give people autonomy to actually solve them as fast as possible. And once you solve those problems, you actually create the products people want.
Hmm.
And then Slush is super agile. So as you probably know, the team changes like 30% a year. So
Hmm.
you always have new people coming in with new ideas, new concepts. And then the event changes quite a bit every year, it's like obviously just the same. Like startup event, you have big speakers and you have side events um and you have the matchmaking tool, so a bunch of meetings. That's the main gist of it. But you just have this ambition to always create new concepts to help founders forward and help understand what it is that founders really want from Slash and how it can be made better. And I think that taught me a lot about if I ever create a company and when I do, how I want the culture from the ground up to be built. Because that's the best way to ensure that you're actually getting at least the basics right. When you get the basics right, you're more likely to succeed.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. Like I think we won't have time to go into it this time, but we'll have to get you back on again to just talk about how that shit works because
Yeah.
it's like phenomenal. I remember when I first learned about it, and I was like, "Oh, cool! This is this like conference and stuff." And then when I learned it was ran by like the student body,
Mhm. Yeah.
basically, I was like, "No fucking way!" Because having been involved in a bunch of things like societies and the leadership positions within them,
Mhm.
like I was just like when you do that stuff back at my unis and stuff, people would leave, people would be so hard to really engage with. So I
Yeah.
was like, wow, like the governance structure, like the actual organization, like how they managed to get so much shit done with a workforce, like you said, that changes 30% year on year.
Mhm.
Like that is that's like a case study in itself. So it's so incredible. But that's like I guess a glimpse, a little clue to how it works. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean. I have to get you back on to talk about that more in depth because it's amazing that like Europe's, if not biggest, like yeah, it's something like the second biggest, but like definitely coolest conference and like
Oh yeah,
probably biggest in terms of guests is student built, like
definitely.
crazy, really crazy. Um, and so like thinking on after uni, like what do you want to go and do now, and like how do you think you sort of came to that conclusion, and why do you think you landed in that path?
Yeah. Well, right now, as I said, I've been doing internships in all fields just to kind of see what it's like.
Mm,
I've studied finance, so it's a very generic degree. I can go on to do a lot of things, but mostly I want to work with startups. I want to work with founders, and I want to work with smart people. And having seen different types of industries they can go into, like when you have smart people, you usually have the same sense of doing things fast, so you don't settle, and then you also when you do it right, you impact a lot of people and you can also make a lot of money from it. So
mm.
that's like the holy trinity of getting a
Yeah,
career.
yeah,
And I
honestly.
think that that's something that I really want to be able to achieve myself. And I'm still open, but I think that's something that I will keep in mind when I go into something. But eventually, like as I said, the holy grail would be to find someone and something that I want to build a company in, and I want to do this for the next 10 years and build something that like no one else has built yet and make the best company in this domain, and
Hmm.
then keep it as a like legacy, and that people will always remember me for creating that much positive impact in the world, because that's what
Hmm.
startups are supposed to do, right? You
Hmm.
can create a lot of money from it, but if you don't like actually affect people's lives, make them easier, make them more fun, then it's not really, you're not going to get that motivation from it. At least
Hmm.
if you think about it on a deeper level.
Hmm. Well, you'll have to bookmark this podcast because in 10 years' time you'll be able to look back at it and think, oh,
Oh, yes,
I was saying those things I'm gonna do, now I've done them. So cool. So yeah, it'd be exciting to see like where it takes you over the next 10 years.
exactly.
Um super. Well, we've been going for a while now, so we probably should start wrapping it up. But before we do, so like what are your like next steps? I guess you're going to work at like a consulting firm for a bit and then
Yeah,
a PE firm. So
yeah.
like those are your next steps, I guess. And then from there, like I guess where would you like to take it, like the next sort of
Well,
year or so?
graduation would be nice. I think, as I
Yeah.
said, the education system in Finland here values education. So many people actually do their masters. It's very rare that people have ever quit
Yeah, yeah.
and start their career from their bachelor's. So that's a very big cultural thing. So I'm going to finish that this year and then hopefully find something that is as close to what I was just explaining as
Yeah, on the path. Nice. Perfect. And then before we end, I always like to ask guests for like a nice quote they want to leave us. Basically, we're gonna eventually write them all down on post-its and stick them in the back or something interesting like that. I don't really know exactly what the idea will be. But that said, do you have a nice quote, a favorite quote
yeah.
or
Well,
yeah.
actually, I did listen to the previous episode, so
Ah, so
I
so
knew
you
this
know, so you're
quote. As I
not
was
caught
thinking of
off
a quote
guard.
because, and
Okay.
I actually don't know that many quotes, so I was really struggling with what's something that has kept me going. There are a couple of quotes I do actually recall from like any moment. You have to say, okay, tell me a quote. This is good.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
actually thinking I could say any of those, but that would be boring. And I actually thought I don't actually know who this quote belongs to, but
Okay.
I think it's something that's struck me throughout, it's actually been a part of this conversation as well. It's with all like endurance training and then starting your own company is Uh, Discipline eats motivation for breakfast.
Hmm.
And I think that that's just like the everyday execution, everyday training, everyday like just keeping yourself disciplined. You will beat those times when you don't have the motivation to do it. I think that's very true. Everyone in life will have struggles and will have like issues with like, if you even if you're not like you're not training for something like crazy, or you're not like you're not that motivated at your job. You just keep yourself disciplined, and you know what you want to achieve in the long term. You will eventually get to it, or you will
Hmm.
always get closer to it.
Hmm.
It just applies to all things in life. And I think motivation, as much as you can watch YouTube videos on how build your motivation for certain things, is not going to last as long as discipline is.
Yeah, it's just super inconsistent, and you'll have these like peaks and then
Yeah,
weeks and weeks of
yeah.
trough. Yeah,
I mean, just like with like podcasts, as we said, like if people, you can have
yeah,
motivation to start a podcast, but the discipline to keep a podcast going, that's something completely different.
yeah. Honestly, and that's I think where many of them trip up. You'll see many pop up for a year
Yeah,
and then disappear. But
yeah.
anyway, that aside, thanks so much, Jamie, for coming on.
Thank
Great
you.
quote to leave us with, and I feel like it's super. What would you say? Like super topical. I feel like you've really rounded up the episode since we spoke so much about the Iron Man stuff.
Yep.
There's much we left untouched, so you'll have to come on again at some point. Maybe next time you're in London and we can do it in person.
Oh, definitely.
And thanks a lot for sharing a tiny bit of your life story with us and what life's like in Finland. So thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Sam. This was great.